What I used to do isn't working anymore. Yes, because it's too much of a stress on your body. Despite the fact that you're doing these workouts and you're eating clean and you're cutting your calories and you're hitting your protein, it doesn't matter. Your body is constantly being told, we have enough, let's store. And what happens is it creates a fat storage first environment, even if you are eating less. It should be challenging, but recoverable. So if you are going to like a 60-minute class, an hour and a half class, those are not HIIT. This is falling into that circuit training strategy that we talked about previously. So this is what HIIT should look like if you are doing it the right way, especially if you are over 40. Hello, and welcome back to the Metabolism and Menopause podcast, where we help you understand this new body of yours. Because now that you've gone through some hormonal changes, or maybe you're past menopause now, your past fat loss strategies just aren't going to cut it anymore. So it is time to learn how to work with your body rather than against it, so you can open up those fat burning pathways, have energy and confidence again. Today, we are tackling the very popular topic of HIIT training because it is often marketed as that ultimate fat burning workout. But is it still working for you? Especially now that you might be in your late 30s, your 40s, your 50s, or is it actually working against your hormones and making it a lot harder for you to lose weight? So today's episode is all about breaking down what HIIT actually is, what it is not, the hormone smart pros and cons of HIIT training for women in midlife, and how do you know if it's actually for you? You'll learn what it can do to, help with fat loss and what it can actually do to block fat loss and what that actually looks like for you. And so before we dive into what HIIT actually is, we need to talk about what HIIT is not. This high intensity interval training is not any of the following: a 45-minute boot camp with zero rest. People often think that HIIT is just back-to-back cardio with burpees and squat jumps and mountain climbers with no breaks. A lot of people think HIIT is doing it 5 days a week with, under eating. We're trying to lose fat, right? That is not what we should be doing. It is not supposed to be just this workout that leaves you shaky, inflamed, and exhausted for hours afterwards. That's a big red flag for you. And it's also not something that you should be doing without fuel. We're not doing this fasted. And so there's different kinds of workouts that a lot of women think are HIIT, but are not. And I want to differentiate those for you so that you can really understand what it is that you're actually doing, because a lot of women don't actually understand this. So HIIT is short bursts of all out effort with nearly full rest afterwards. So you are giving it your all 110%. Most of us are not doing that. Then we have something called Metcon, which is metabolic conditioning. And this combines resistance training with cardio, but often without enough rest. So this is more of like the CrossFit style type workouts. That is not HIIT. Okay, those are metabolic conditioning methods of working out. And then we have circuit training, which is what a lot of women do thinking that it's HIIT. And this is where you move through different stations with minimal rest, but they're a little bit more strength focused than HIIT typically, but they're still minimal rest. Everyone thinks that these circuit styles are HIIT training when they are in fact not. So many women think that they're doing HIIT and they're doing all these great things for them, but what they're actually doing is just having chronic metabolic stress with hardly any recovery at all, which is a disaster for our hormones, particularly once we hit our 40s and beyond. So now that we know that what it is not, and most of us are like, oh crap, I thought that's what I was doing, and I guess it's not. Now that we know what it's not, let's dive into what high intensity interval training actually looks like, both in its ideal form and what many women mistakenly kind of do, which often leads to burnout over 40 in particular. So we're starting to see worse energy. We're not putting on muscle mass. We're not losing fat. We're struggling with our sleep. Cravings are getting worse. We're feeling bloated. These are all signs that something is up, and this is probably not for you. So high intensity interval training, this is defined as alternating short bursts of max effort with periods of rest or low intensity recovery. So the goal is to spike your heart rate, and then we recover. And then we repeat, and we spike your heart rate, and we recover, and then we repeat. And total workout time is usually 15 to 25 minutes max when we're doing HIIT. It should be challenging, but recoverable. So if you are going to like a 60-minute class, an hour and a half class, those are not HIIT. This is falling into that circuit training strategy that we talked about previously. So this is what HIIT should look like if you are doing it the right way, especially if you are over 40. First, you're going to have a warm-up. This is 5 to 8 minutes of some mobility, dynamic stretching, maybe a little bit of walking. We're just trying to get blood flow to the areas that we are going to be using it, priming those muscles to be able to do the things that we want it to do, get some lubrication in there, right? So we're decreasing our chance of injury. Then we have the work to rest ratio, and this is very important. And we're going to tackle what those look like specifically and how do you know which one you work on. So there's a 1-to-1 ratio where it'd be like, if you were doing 30 seconds of work, you were doing 30 seconds of rest. Then there's a 1-to-2 ratio, which is you would work for 30 seconds and have a minute rest, or a 1-to-3. So 30 seconds of work, a minute and a half of rest. Or we have Tabata, which is 20 seconds of work, 10-second rest. Okay. And we're going to dive into this in literally just a couple seconds here. Next, we have the intensity. Intensity for HIIT, 80 to 90% of your maximal effort. You should feel incredibly breathless after this. You are not able to maintain a conversation at all whatsoever. Duration, you're doing 4 to 8 total working intervals, which is about 10 to 20 minutes total, which includes the recovery in between. So these are short workouts. Again, if you've been doing longer ones, this is no longer HIIT. And then frequency, we don't want to do this any more than 1 to 2 times a week maximum. And that is if you are sleeping really well. We know you are eating enough food. You are recovering well. We're not having a ton of hormonal symptoms. If you're experiencing any of those things, HIIT is probably not in the place for you right now, which we'll dive into a little bit later. So the ratios, let's talk about all those different options that I gave you. So the work to rest ratio, 1-to-1. So this would be like if you're doing 30 seconds work, 30 seconds rest, or if you're doing 45 seconds of work, 45 seconds of rest. This is matched. And this is best for general fitness, fat loss, and intermediate users. Intermediate. If you are someone that is not strength training, if you are someone who is not like I would say athlete-ish, where we're able to push ourselves often. We know what it feels like to lift to failure, things like that. That is who this is more so for. The reason for this is that it keeps your heart rate elevated. We see a good balance of intensity and recovery. If you are not able to recover, then this is not for you. It allows repeatable effort. So this would be like a 30-second sprint and then 30 seconds of walking, and then you repeat that. Again, for most people, this is a lot. I don't do 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. That's a lot for me. My body, my cortisol, where my hormones came back on my Dutch test with low estrogen, low progesterone, low testosterone, high androgens, high cortisol. But we could see that my body was having a hard time breaking things down, which means my liver was struggling. There was some inflammation. Those are all signs that my body's not going to be able to recover. So pushing it would be super inappropriate and actually lead to more weight gain, more inflammation. Inflammation blocks your fat burning pathway. And so we need to make sure that what you are pushing is not going to drive inflammation up so high that you are unable to, actually recover and actually get into fat loss, because then it defeats the purpose. And then you're just stuck in that storing pathway. And when you're stuck in that storing pathway, your body is constantly being told, we have enough, let's store. We have enough, let's store. Despite the fact that you're doing these workouts and you're eating clean and you're cutting your calories and you're hitting your protein, it doesn't matter. Your body is constantly being told, we have enough, let's store. So we need to find that balance of how do we push, but not see that increase in inflammation where it's detrimental to you. And this is why with a lot of women, we have to pull them back off of this when they first start with us. Then we have the 2-to-1 ratio. So this would be like 40 seconds of work and 20 seconds of rest. This is a lot. This is intense. This is for people who are advanced. They are endurance type athletes. And this is because it increases time under tension and massively increases stress on your body. There is far less recovery. So we see more fatigue buildup. And so this is where if you are someone who is already struggling with energy and your sleep, your digestion, we're having a lot of bloating, we're having a lot of hormonal symptoms, mood issues, this is not for you. This is the 2-to-1 work to rest is not a good option for you. Then we have the 1-to-2 or 1-to-3 ratio, which is where I like to start people off once they are ready to implement this. I would much rather have them build the muscle mass and build that base first before I ever introduce HIIT, ever. I have a client that I have been working with for over a year, and we are just doing this now because her body, we need to make sure that she's doing okay, that she can handle it. And we want to build a solid base of strength first so that we're having healthy joints. We're able to protect those. We're building muscle mass, maintaining muscle mass, because this is a stress. And if we don't have those things set up in advance, we can actually end up losing muscle mass and injuring ourselves, which then is going to set us back even more. We know if we're injured, we lose muscle mass more rapidly. We don't want that. The less muscle mass we have, the less calories we burn. The worse your body is at burning calories, the harder it is to lose weight, the easier it is to gain weight. And we're typically going to see an increase in inflammation that goes with that, which again, we do not want because it blocks your fat burning. So I prefer the 1-2 or 1-3 work to rest ratio. So this would be like 20 seconds of work and then either 40 to 60 seconds of rest, 30 seconds of work to a minute and a half of rest. And so the reason that I like this is because it really helps you hit that maximal power output. It allows you to go all out, to push to that 90%, 100% effort. So this is great for sprint training. This is great for explosive movements. There is going to be more recovery. So then you have better form and higher intensity every single time you hit it. So why do you want to practice something when you're not at your best, right? Like if you can't, like let's say you're trying to practice a golf swing. You're going to like give yourself enough rest in between to like make sure that you can have good form every single time, right? And like really get the most out of every single swing you do. You wouldn't swing a golf club a bajillion times over with terrible form because that's not teaching you anything. You're not going to get anything out of that. It's the same thing with HIIT. We want to make sure that we can recover and give our best effort every time that we're doing it. So an example of this would be like a 20-second hill sprint and then 60-second walk on the way down. Then we have Tabata. So this is 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. And this is short, intense metabolic burnout. This could be at like the end of a workout. If again, your body can handle it, this is not for beginners at all. If you are starting out HIIT, you are doing the 1-2 or 1-3 work to rest ratio. So these short Tabatas are 8 rounds of one movement. Again, not for beginners. They are brutal, but great for metabolic conditioning if your body can tolerate that. Again, if you are struggling with sleep and energy and digestion and you're struggling with cravings and hormonal symptoms, this is not for you. So why this matters for hormones is because in perimenopause and menopause, yes, you can hit perimenopause as young as 35, just so you're aware. You could have a totally normal cycle and still be in perimenopause. Again, just so you're aware. But what we see is cortisol management is so key in this time of your life. And HIIT with short recovery can spike those hormones unnecessarily if overdone and really negatively impact your body, because we know that with cortisol, as your estrogen and progesterone start to decline, as they start to fluctuate, the amount of stress you can tolerate decreases. So before you could handle a 9 out of 10 and then cortisol would go up. Now it's a 5 out of 10 and it takes us a lot longer to recover. And so what happens is you're still doing all the things that you used to do, but now your body can't handle it. And this is where I hear women tell me all the time, but Steph, what I used to do isn't working anymore. Yes, because it's too much of a stress on your body. And when cortisol goes up, guess what else happens? Inflammation goes up. Inflammation blocks your fat burning pathway. We're also going to see metabolism slows down, which means it takes longer for energy to enter your cells, which again increases inflammation, blocks that fat burning pathway, but also your body is worse at using those calories and is more likely to store them, which makes weight loss really hard, weight gain very easy. We also see when cortisol goes up, hormone production decreases, which makes all of this a lot worse, and your symptoms get worse. We also see that it's harder to build muscle mass. Your body wants to favor muscle breakdown. Your blood sugar gets worse, even if you are fasting and cutting calories and cutting carbs, because cortisol is going to dump sugar into your bloodstream by breaking down muscle mass, taking it to your liver and turning it into sugar and dumping it into your bloodstream if you are not feeding it appropriately, which is what we have to teach women how to do so that we can avoid all of this. Then we see thyroid function slows down. Metabolism slows down even more. We see that your gut health gets worse, which means more inflammation and more bloating and more blocked fat burning pathways. Our detoxification gets worse, which means more inflammation. So you have all of these things, all because cortisol is too high. Your body can't buffer that stress anymore. So now we start seeing all these negative consequences that make it a lot harder to lose weight. But then you think HIIT is the answer for you, except you're not really doing HIIT. You're doing these circuit trainings that are an hour long when these workouts should really only be like 10 to 25 minutes at the max, including all your recovery and everything. And so this is where we see you pushing. You're amplifying that stress and turning that whole cycle to be so much worse for your body and gaining weight. This is how I lost 7 pounds in less than a month, by pulling back on my exercise, by eating enough food, by changing my food timing, by prioritizing foods that decreased inflammation and improved detoxification. And it was amazing. And my energy was better and my sleep was better. And so we think that restriction and pushing harder is going to help us, but it doesn't. It can make things so much worse. And so for women who are in this range of 35, 40 plus, alternating between that 1-to-1 ratio or 1-to-2, 1-to-3 ratio, using your heart rate based recovery, wait until your heart rate drops back down below 130 is really key to make sure that you are avoiding that burnout and actually blocking that fat burning pathway, because inflammation is going to increase from all that stress. And again, we're only doing this once a week, but I do not allow any of our clients that we're working with to do HIIT unless we know sleep, energy, digestion, hormonal symptoms are good, because your body's already in a state where it's quite vulnerable. It can't handle stress as well. And this ends up being too much. We want to make sure that you have a solid base of muscle mass first. So prioritizing that resistance training first. So hormone smart reminder, if you are bloated, puffy, tired after workouts, you are not recovering, you are gaining belly fat despite training hard, your cortisol is likely elevated, and that HIIT is probably working against you, or you're not doing the right kinds of actual work to rest ratio and what that looks like, and you're doing like Metcon stuff or circuit training instead, which is not the same thing by any means. So let's go into pros and cons now, because a lot of women want to do HIIT because they've heard of all these awesome benefits, right? Love Stacey Sims. I follow her. I've read her books. I read her research. Same with other like amazing women in the field. But the thing that people always like to skim over or forget is that it's not appropriate for everyone right now. It doesn't mean never. It means not right now. It has to be saved for later. So here are some of the benefits that it can help your body with if you can handle it, which most women cannot, right? Let's be honest. We're tired, we're grouchy, we're irritable. This is not for us. So 1, it stimulates your growth hormone and post-exercise calorie burn. It improves your VO2 max and your heart health. So that's like a measure of aerobic health. I used to do this for athletes all the time when I worked at the university. Improves insulin sensitivity short term. So immediately after, insulin sensitivity is improved, but that also comes with resistance training as well, just so you know. And it's time efficient. Like it's great if you're really busy and your body can handle it. However, these benefits only show up if your system isn't already inflamed, exhausted, or hormonally dysregulated. And typically women that we work with who reach out to me, who are watching these videos, are inflamed, exhausted, and hormonally dysregulated. So we need to address that first so you can experience these benefits, right? Then there are the cons, right? The ones that nobody tells you about because they're trying to sell you whatever HIIT training program it is, or whatever it might be, right? So women in perimenopause and menopause, like we mentioned, are already going to struggle with dysregulated cortisol. You can tell I'm filming this on a Monday. Due to stress, sleep disruptions, fluctuating estrogen and progesterone levels. HIIT when we're, under recovered or we're doing it too much is just going to spike that cortisol more, and it's not going to benefit us, right? And so when we have that elevated cortisol, the other thing that you need to know is that it increases abdominal fat storage. And we'll dive into a bit like why that's not so good, fat burning, fat storing pathways, all that kind of stuff. But we need to be aware that when our cortisol is elevated, it is going to make it so we're going to get stuck in that fat storing pathway because of the way that it increases your lipoprotein lipase. So it's going to make it so that your body stores as opposed to wanting to break that down, especially for someone who's also struggling with blood sugar dysregulation. It'll literally just stop your ability to be able to release fat. So we need to address that first. It's also going to suppress that progesterone production. So that's not good. We know that in a high stress state, it is almost damn near impossible for progesterone to be produced, which is part of my problem. And then it also promotes blood sugar instability, like I mentioned, with dumping sugar into your bloodstream. And then we can see an increase in hunger. We can see like really intense cravings for chips and chocolate and ice cream and all those delicious things that we love, right? And so there's a few studies that have said, so Hackney in 2006, cortisol increases proportionally to exercise intensity and duration, particularly when recovery is insufficient, especially in women. So that just goes to show you, yes, too much, that it will affect your recovery, and long term that's not good, because we know if you can't recover, inflammation is higher, inflammation blocks that fat burning pathway, and then you're stuck even if you are eating less and moving more. We know that from another study done in 2008, chronically elevated cortisol is associated with increased central adiposity and insulin resistance. So high stress and that inflammation is going to influence and contribute to insulin resistance. We see this all the time. We can improve women's blood sugars by decreasing inflammation and stress on the body. It is crazy how interconnected everything actually is. And then there was a meta-analysis in 2022 that found that while HIIT training improves some markers of fitness, it significantly raises your salivary cortisol levels when performed more than three times per week or more, with diminishing returns if not balanced by recovery. So this is where just because some is good, more is not better. It can actually negate things for you, just like you could die from drinking too much water. It happens. It happens. So the takeaway here is HIIT can be helpful, right? But it is a stress signal to our body. So when we're already dealing with hormonal stress from low estrogen and poor sleep, emotional burnout, all the things that we're dealing with of like grief and trauma, taking care of sick parents and dealing with our kids and our partners, it can be a lot. And what happens is it creates a fat storage first environment, even if you are eating less. The next thing we need to be aware of is the effect of inflammation, because excessive HIIT without adequate rest or nutritional support, so this means you need to be eating enough, which for me, it cannot be below 1,500 calories, because my basal metabolic rate, how many calories my body burns at rest based off my DEXA scan, is 1,400. So I cannot be below that, because then my body literally does not have enough to keep it alive, right? We start pulling levers as to where we can reduce energy being put into. So don't have enough energy coming in. Okay, hormones tank, hair starts thinning, skin starts wrinkling, all those things. It's not a good situation to be in. And we know that this systemic inflammation can, impair our thyroid function, which slows down our metabolism, which means our body burns less calories at rest, making weight loss hard and weight gain very easily. We see it affects our insulin resistance. Again, setting us through that growth and storage pathway, and impedes muscle recovery, so we're losing muscle mass instead, which is not what we want. And we know that inflammation is going to increase things called cytokines, which directly interfere with leptin signaling and worsen metabolic flexibility. So leptin tells your body, hey, we have enough, we can start burning what we have. We become leptin resistant. That is not good. Our body never gets that signal of we have enough, we can start burning what we have. Instead, it's just being told we have enough, let's store instead from our storing pathway. And that's not good, because that makes it almost dang near impossible to feel like you can lose weight. Women in perimenopause are already more susceptible to inflammation, because when estrogen goes down, inflammation goes up. So we have to be even more aware of how much recovery we actually need, because inflammation is going to block that fat burning pathway. So this is why understanding how much is appropriate for you is so key to success. And so there was a meta-analysis in 2015 that said that while HIIT improves aerobic capacity, it also causes increased inflammatory cytokines in older and overweight individuals when there is not sufficient rest. So this is why that circuit training as well can be really negative, because you're not challenging yourself enough muscularly to really build muscle. You aren't taking adequate enough rest that it is HIIT. It's too long, and it's just stress. So that becomes amplified. And we know that overtraining is going to raise our CRP, which is associated with mood instability, poor fat oxidization, so being able to break down fat, but also it's an inflammatory marker. We don't want that to go up. That's not good. And then there was a study done in 2021 that showed that postmenopausal women had a blunted anti-inflammatory response to HIIT versus younger women. So as we age and our hormones change, we are going to struggle to bring inflammation down post-HIIT workouts. That is something that you need to understand. What we got away with before, we typically can't get away with now because our bodies are so different, which is what this podcast is so focused on addressing for everyone. So instead of triggering an anti-inflammatory benefit, excessive HIIT can actually be perceived as internal damage, which raises inflammation, blocks that fat burning pathway, worsens your mood, your sleep, and your cravings once we are in that, 35, 40 plus range. So we need to be cautious when we are doing these things because most of the time these studies are done on people who are healthy and not having these kinds of symptoms, right? So again, we need to make sure we're applying this the appropriate way. Then we have loss of lean muscle mass, which is massive. If you listen to people like Gabrielle Lyons, if you listen to anyone in the women's health field, muscle is so key to longevity for so many things. We burn more calories at rest. We are more insulin sensitive. We have less inflammation. It helps with more all-cause mortality. If we have more muscle, on average, we live longer and have a better quality of life as well. And so what we need to be aware of is that estrogen and testosterone are naturally going to decline in this time of our life, making it a lot harder to build and preserve the muscle mass that we have. And if our cortisol is high, now not only do we have a lower muscle building signal, we have a greater muscle breakdown signal. And so if we're doing HIIT, especially if we're not eating enough food, that muscle breakdown signal goes up even higher. And so this is going to have a lot of negative side effects for our health and also our body composition, because now our body is going to burn less calories, making weight loss hard and weight gain easy. We have fewer muscle fibers, which means we have worse insulin sensitivity. So our blood sugar gets so much worse and our body fat percentage goes up, even if the scale doesn't change that much. And we don't have that estrogen's protective effect. So this breakdown starts happening a lot quicker. And so there was a meta-analysis in 2012 that showed that protein timing and adequate energy intake are critical for preserving your lean muscle mass during high intensity interval training. So we need to make sure that you are fueling adequately. We are not being fasted when we are working out. We need to eat something before we work out, and we need to eat afterwards as well. There's also a study done in 2019 that muscle protein synthesis rates, so how well our body can build muscle mass and repair muscle mass, are lower in older individuals, especially women. Fasted or depleted exercise increases that muscle breakdown. So we need to make sure, again, that you are doing the appropriate kind of exercise, getting enough recovery, because that's when muscle is rebuilt, right, and recovers. But also we need to be fueling appropriately for that. And then there was a study done in 2021 that said postmenopausal women need more protein and less stress per workout to gain muscle versus premenopausal women. So more protein, less stress per workout. How many of us are doing that? Not very many of us. So again, we need to adjust. The biggest takeaway here is that HIIT is, if we are stressed already, if we are underfueled, we are going to see muscle loss, not fat loss. We're going to have a higher body fat percentage. Muscle is a metabolic tissue that we desperately need to hang on to during perimenopause and menopause for our health in multiple facets, not just our body composition, the way that we look. And then we have that it can also disrupt your thyroid and slow metabolism, because HIIT can disrupt thyroid hormone conversion, especially if combined with undereating or sleep deprivation. How many of us are concerned about our thyroid? My hand is up. How many of us struggle with undereating, right? We're afraid to eat more, and we're struggling with sleep. Everyone is thinking, oh crap, that's me, right? What we see is this is going to slow down your metabolic rate. Your body is worse at burning calories, making weight loss hard and weight gain a lot easier. And this can lead to like worse cold intolerances, poor energy, stalled fat loss. So what happens is T4 may not convert efficiently to T3. T3 is the active form that our body can actually use. And we see this all the time. People's TSH can be fine, but this is a problem here. And so this drives your metabolism, your energy production, your fat burning, your body temperature regulation, brain function, gut motility, like T4, T3, very important. And so it's produced either directly by our thyroid or converted from T4 in the liver, the gut, and other tissues. This is why we also stress taking care of your liver, decreasing inflammation, taking care of your gut health, because those things can actually cause you to become hypothyroid because you don't have enough T3. And then people take medications to try and improve it. However, we don't fix the root cause of the problem, which is that your gut is a mess. Your liver is a mess. You have inflammation. We need to make sure that we are actually addressing the root cause of your problems. So think of T3 as the hormone that tells your body, let's go, let's burn energy, let's stay sharp, let's feel alive. Who feels like they're lacking that in their life? Probably everybody, right? And so then we also see that there's reverse T3. And this can also come up and signal metabolic shutdown. So what that means is it's the inactive form of a thyroid hormone. It blocks your T3 from binding to its receptor. So the way that we feel all those amazing feelings when we burn fat and our metabolism is good is that T3 is like the key that goes in the lock. But then you have this reverse T3 that can get in there, interfere. So T3 can't go into the lock anymore. And so it's produced, this reverse T3, when your body is under stress, i.e. inflammation, under eating, overtraining, illness, trauma, being go, 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 and on all the time, rushing from one place to the other, skipping meals, rushing through your lunch break. You're just go, 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 taking care of everyone, and you're sleeping like crap. A lot of people are probably like, oh crap, that sounds like me. Yes, it's meant to slow metabolism during times of crisis to conserve energy. It doesn't know that you're busting your butt doing these crazy HIIT workouts, just trying to lose weight. It goes, oh, we're in trouble. Let's block this to conserve energy. This is how things change internally, even though you feel like you've changed nothing externally. Internally, things are changing. And remember, it takes a lot less stress for this to happen now, because before we could handle a 9 out of 10 before cortisol went up, and now we start seeing reverse T3 being an issue. Now it's only a 5 out of 10. So now we really have to pay attention to the stress that we're experiencing and learning how to buffer that appropriately, because we can't get rid of all of our stress in our life. And I know that, but it's going to take some time to learn how much food do I need to buffer that? What kind of lifestyle changes do I have to make to improve this? The types of food that I need to eat to bring that stress response down, meal timing, all of those things are going to make a difference since your hormones aren't there to support you as much anymore. So even if your TSH and T4 look normal, high T3 and or high reverse T3 and low T3 suggests that your thyroid is not getting into the cells to do the job that it needs to do. It's a functional slowdown. Your body is slowing things down because you're not doing it yourself. So it doesn't trust you to make the right choices, so it's doing it internally. So this is not a gland problem. This is not a thyroid problem. This is a conversion and stress adaptation problem. Stress and inflammation are going to be critical to really address this, and medication doesn't fix this, right? We need to address you. That's what we need to get to, right? Helping you understand what is too much and how do I buffer that appropriately? What kind of exercise is appropriate? How much food do I actually need? This is what we help you with. This is what all of this is about. And we also know that low estrogen can impair that conversion of T4 to T3 as well. And so chronic stress like too much HIIT and under eating and poor sleep raises cortisol, shunts T4 into reverse T3 instead of T3. That's getting blocked. T3 can't do what it needs to do, right? Already we're at a predisposition of experiencing this because of estrogen declining. And so now you're left with a sluggish metabolism. You're exhausted all the time. You're dealing with brain fog, cold sensitivity, weight gain, or an inability to lose weight despite doing everything right, and even depression and low motivation. And so there's a study done in 2008 that showed that intense exercise without recovery elevates your reverse T3 and suppresses active thyroid hormones, which results in everything we just talked about. Then in 2014, there was a study that showed that HPT, which is your hypothalamic pituitary thyroid axis, so they all talk to each other, is highly sensitive to inflammation and cortisol, both of which raise with excessive HIIT. So if we're already struggling with this and we're doing HIIT, it will actually cause negative health effects. But again, nobody talks about this stuff. And there was a review done in 2023 that women over 40 with thyroid dysfunction may see worsening fatigue and metabolism with frequent HIIT unless properly managed. Can we just take a moment to take that in? The rates of thyroid issues that we see in women is astronomical. When we're looking at labs, when we're looking at symptoms, like it's insane. And so women over 40 with thyroid dysfunction may see worsening fatigue and metabolism, which means you are more exhausted and your metabolism slows down. Your body gets worse at burning calories. We're going to see more inflammation. Your body is stuck in fat storing mode. Your fat burning pathway is blocked with frequent HIIT unless properly managed. Most women are not understanding how to properly manage. So if your thyroid is underperforming, which is incredibly common in perimenopause and menopause, HIIT may suppress it further, slowing down your metabolism despite your increased effort. We see this all of the time. So what to do instead, right? Strength training 3 times a week. We want to build that muscle mass to build up that metabolism, make you more insulin sensitive, support your blood sugar, pull you out of being stuck in that growth and storage pathway. Okay, so this means we are lifting heavy. What does heavy mean? We can't go too above the rep range. If you're scared to lift heavy, move slowly. Go really, really slow. Pause at the bottom, 3 seconds on the way up, 3 seconds on the way down. Get into a deeper range of motion. So squat, you're trying to get lower. If you're lunging, you're trying to get lower. If you're doing a bicep curl, you are going all the way down, not just partially down. Hand is going all the way down. Full 90 degrees. Or I guess that'd be like 180 degrees. We're going all the way up, all the way down. And so that's going to help you stimulate that stretch, get that muscle fatigue in there, build strength and a greater range of motion, more time under tension. So you can do that so that you can't go too above the rep range. So we're looking at like, if your goal is 10 reps, you cannot lift more than 12. See if you can. If you can, you need to up the weights quite a bit or really slow down those movements. You are following that same workout for 4 to 6 weeks. And then you change it. So every Monday looks the same. Wednesday looks different than Monday, but every Wednesday is going to look the same. Every Friday is going to look the same. And you change it every 4 to 6 weeks. And you're focusing on lifting heavier. Every single week, you're getting stronger. You're getting deeper. You're moving more slowly. You're challenging yourself. You're not able to go 2 reps past that required rep range. And then you're sitting after each set for like 90 seconds, 2 minutes. Just resting. And then you do it again so that we can give it our full effort to hit the most results. I can't tell you how many women don't take enough rest. And once they do, they start seeing incredible changes in their body because now they can actually challenge their body more because they're fully recovered. That's what we want. And this is important because it supports your estrogen levels, it supports your testosterone, it supports your blood sugar control, like I mentioned. It burns more calories at rest. When your body's good at burning calories, you're going to have less inflammation. You're going to have an easier time losing weight, opening up those fat burning pathways. That's what we want. And it lowers cortisol over time compared to HIIT. Next thing you want to do is walking and zone 2 cardio. So this helps open up those fat burning pathways without stressing out your body and increasing cortisol. Get your steps in, go for walks, move regularly throughout the day, build a life around movement. This is going to help support your mitochondrial health, which is imperative for keeping inflammation down. Remember, if inflammation is high, fat burning pathway is blocked. It also helps support your blood sugar control. Remember, if our insulin is high, we're stuck in that storage pathway. And then, only then, if your body is actually ready and you are not struggling with sleep, stress, energy, bloating, hormonal symptoms, then, and you're eating enough food, you're getting enough protein, then you can try doing short HIIT 1 time per week, max 2, only if you are recovered. And the total time for this workout is 15 to 20 minutes max. That is it. You are doing it after a warm up and on days where you've had a good sleep, your food energy is good, or your food intake is good, and your energy is good. If you are tired, you are not doing HIIT. Big mistake. Always alternate HIIT with strength and recovery days. Always. And then you want to focus on that stress to rest ratio. For high stress outputs like HIIT, you need 2 to 3 inputs of recovery. Mobility, breathing, sleep, walking, nourishing meals. You have to be super intentional. Otherwise, inflammation is going to be rampant and you're going to feel like garbage. So final thoughts here is HIIT is not bad for you. But your hormones and where your body is at needs to be considered because you are not the same as you were when you were 20. Our bodies are inherently different now that we're going through these hormonal changes. HIIT can absolutely be a powerful tool, but only if you're hormonally ready, if you're eating enough food, if you are in a position where your body can tolerate it. It's not about working harder. It's about working smarter with your body and understanding where you're truly at. Women over 40 need workouts that build, not break you down. Just because a workout is super sweaty does not mean it's effective. Anyone can make a workout harder and sweatier. Add in some unnecessary jumping and burpees and running around. Very easy to make a workout feel hard and sweaty. Does not mean it's effective or beneficial for you. You cannot outwork a stressed system. You must restore it first. And so if you are kind of confused as like, okay, I don't think I'm actually ready based on what you said. I thought I was doing HIIT and I'm not. How many calories should I actually be eating? Am I doing the right things? This is what we do in our free consultation calls, not a sales call. Those are totally separate. A free consultation call, we assess things for you. We take your history. We help you determine how much food is appropriate for you based on where you're at and what your goals are, what your body is telling you. How do you adjust your exercise? That is the whole purpose of those calls, because I am sick and tired of seeing people make people pay $120 for these consultations just to hear them, like to get to know them, to hear them, to understand them. I think that that's not something you should have to pay for. I think it's bad enough that it's hard to get like classic healthcare to help you with that. So that's why we do those for free. If you want to book a free consultation call, it's in the show notes, or you can message me personally and we'll get that set up for you. There are no strings attached. Again, sales calls are a totally separate thing. This is just to help you understand your body and what steps to take moving forward. We do have a fat loss quiz as well that will help you kind of figure out, if this is the right time for you to do HIIT or not. It gives you different ratings. Are you ready for fat loss? Are you not? What's blocking your fat burning pathways? All those kinds of things. That's in the show notes for you as well. But I hope this was helpful for you. Share this with all your friends who are HIIT and workout junkies and really struggling, and they're struggling with energy and they're not seeing results from it. This is something every woman deserves to know. I love you so much, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.